I'm going to take a little bit different approach, and it's probably after talking to you I feel much more confident about this, that I'm not going to bore you for 75 minutes. It'll probably go short. I was anticipating questions, so we'll get you out of here on time to beat the crowd to wherever the next place is. Oh, here's Melissa. So I'm going to have a little bit different approach. Has anybody gone to one of these prep sessions yet? Okay. My approach is going to be a little bit different. Just a little bit about my background. I teach certification courses for a living to where they go there. They don't just take the class. They're expected to pass and be certified by the time they finish. A lot of Department of Defense people come to my courses. I don't know if you knew this, but the Department of Defense requires you to be certified now, which has been a goldmine for me, and it is quite good. But let me tell you what that has to do with my different approach. There are a lot of people that are very, very good at technology. You put them behind an Exchange server, and they know every single PowerPoint. They know every PowerShell. I got my powers confused. PowerShell script with every part of it. But you put them in front of a screen, and you say, okay, certify, we're going to score you. And they absolutely blow it. And I deal with those people a lot. And there's more to get over taking these exams than there is just what material do you need to know for this exam. There is strategy involved here. There's test-taking ability. You're not only scored on how well you know the product, and you do have to know the product, you're also scored on how well do you take an exam. So I'm going to focus a little bit more on that than just throwing up a whole bunch of objectives up here and saying study this, study this, study this, study this. I'm going to try and help you through some of the new test question types and go through the logic of it. And I ask you to bear with me through that because I think when you actually sit down for the certification test, it will do you some good. And again, I'm kind of relying on my experience of dealing with people that were very nervous. I've seen literally grown men cry about taking a certification test. Some of us are good at it. Some of us aren't so good at it. So if you get nervous when you take exams, I'm going to try and help you through that. So with that, my name is Gary Grodzinskis. Gary's fine. Yeah, I always say that. I own a company called Realize Learning. And it's just a company of one, basically. And I do two things. One is I produce videos, Windows 8, and also for Office 2013. And I also teach certification courses. And again, it's the Microsoft official curriculum, but these people that come to these courses are expected to certify at the end of it. That's why they come to me instead of another MOC trainer to get certified. And there's a lot of pressure these days to get certified, as probably a lot of you know. So again, we concentrate on question types and strategy in here. The takeaways for this. So this course, and after talking to you, I think we're right on track here. This course is one of the electives. Let me tell you how this kind of works now for Microsoft. The MCSE of yesterday, pretty much you're an MCSE or you're not an MCSE. You're somebody or nobody, I don't know. And now you build up to the MCSA, then you have kind of electives after that. So all your paths are exactly the same. 410, 411, 412, but in your case, that's going to be 417, which gets you up to the MCSA in Windows 8. I'm sorry, MCSA in Server 2012. Then you can do desktop infrastructure, server infrastructure, cloud, or messaging after that. So the questions about the tracks is pretty much going to be all the same for pretty much everybody I heard in here, except the 417 takes care of those three exams, 410, 411, and 412. So the track is the same, and then after that, you kind of decide, well, what am I going to specialize in? The cloud, the server, the messaging, Exchange server, basically, or the other one that I forgot was server, desktop, cloud, and messaging. So we're going to take a look at some of these objectives. I'm not going to go terribly into detail about this because you can kind of look online. What my goal for you is to get you familiar and a little more comfortable with taking the exam so you're not surprised at some of these question types you see and have a strategy. And I'm going to just give you the same spiel I guess you could say, as my nervous students that are going to take an exam. Again, you're tested on your test-taking ability just as much as the information that you know. Some of us good at taking tests, some of us not good at taking tests. So this question types and how to answer them is going to be a big part of this. And also, the knowledge gaps. How do you find out what's on this exam, on these exams, and how do you find out what you don't know, what you're supposed to know for the exam, and then how do you fill in that gap as you're going along? How many people plan on taking the exam here at TechEd? Sorry about that. I kind of killed my mind. Well, welcome anyway. We went around and talked with everybody. I noticed you walked in late. Just name, your certification level, and your company.
My name is Suyash, and I don't have any certifications.
Okay. Okay. All right. Well, welcome. Nice to have you. And again, they take away the gaps and the proper resources that you have for them. So that was the introduction. Now we'll talk about certification, and if there's any questions, please ask me. It's pretty straightforward, but it got a little confusing because, right, we're the MCSA, MCSE, then the MCITP, which I barely knew that acronym, and I was one. And now it's back to the MCSE, but it's not solutions. It's not a system engineer, it's a solutions expert. So it's not the same perfectly. All right, and some of the resources I'm going to give you are perfectly good resources. What I'm trying to do here is just get you on the right track to find what you have. And there's two types of resources, well, basically three types of resources. Practice exams, study material, and hands-on. And don't think that if you don't have a big lab at home that you can't do the hands-on. One, there's hands-on right here at TechEd downstairs. And there are virtual labs and a lot of stuff available online. And then there's trial versions of all the things that you have. If you're like me, I cannot study a book and go take an exam. In order for it to process in my head, I have to visualize where I clicked and what was on the screen. I quite literally, when I take an exam, memorize or call up, what do you call that? Make salient, call up in my memory, visualize, something like that. The actual process of going through with this exam of what it looked like on the screen and what I clicked and what I did and what I didn't do. And then knowledge domains, I'm going to cover that. I'm going to try to be as least boring as I possibly can because I don't want to get here and say, study this, study this, study this, study this. Again, I want to kind of guide you through the actual exam process. And then questions and NDA type answers. The NDA type answers, what that means is I'm not supposed to disclose what's on these exams because I pass exams. And I'll try to be as, well, we'll see when it happens. I don't want to get in trouble. I don't have somebody come here and strip my MCSE away because I gave something away. All right, the certifications. And this is how it goes now. This isn't the full picture here. There's actually something under here, which is called the MTA. I think from talking to most of you, that's probably a little bit, oh, how do I put this nice? Below your level, I guess you could say. But it's a good place to start off. When I first started teaching certification courses, I had a lot of what we used to call career changers. Plumbers, ranch hands, mechanics, that saw that MCSEs made $80,000 a year and they want to be one. And it was tough. They used to fall like flies. You know, once they found out that it's actually, we have to do work and it takes a certain kind of person to be an IT professional. But keep in mind, as I'm saying this, we have the MTA program under this. So there's another way to start. So here you go. The associate. And this is where a lot of you are going to start. The path is the same, 410. 411, 412, or if you already have the MCSE in Windows 7, you might not know you have it. If you have an MCITP in Windows 8, you have an MCSA in Windows. No. If you have the here I go, MCITP in 2008, then you automatically have the MCSA in Windows 7. So the 417 course to get up there. And then this is where it diverses. And the expert level, you have 4 different tracks that you can do for that. Each one is 2 exams each. So you're looking at 5 exams or 3 exams, depending upon where you are. The master is a little bit different, and there's not actually a master for 2012 yet. This is where you pay Microsoft $8,000, a bunch of people gather around you, hit you with questions, you go on the server, they try to destroy you, you see if you come out alive, you're a master, basically. And then you get paid big bucks. So if you're interested in that, that's kind of above and beyond the scope of what we're going to talk about here. So there they are, the MCSA, the MCSE, and the MCSM. Dun, da, da, da. Okay, and here's some proud-looking silhouettes. I don't think there's one technical person I've met that quite looks like that, or really any of the other ones. But you have these different symbols. And I guess these symbols are supposed to symbolize pride. I'm not quite sure. Notice the flat graphics there. So in 2008, you had the 640, 642, and 646, and that made you an MCSA in Windows Server 2008. But however, as we discussed, if you're an MCITP, then it's kind of a different track. And one thing that, Sean, you're going to have to kind of look at is, do you want to just go ahead and do the 2008, 2012, or do you want to start off with 7 and 2008 release 2? Honestly, I think it might be easier for you to do the latter, to do the Windows Server 2008 and 2012. But again, it's a decision you take, because you don't want to be upgrading all of a sudden as soon as you take it. And here we are. This again, if you're any one of these, if those look familiar to you, then you got a surprise thing in the mail. Anybody get that? Saying you're an MCSE in Windows 7, you thought, wow, I didn't even pass an exam. That's because it's grandfathered in. And then that one is a 417 and 410, 411, 412, and that gets you up to MCSA. So looking at these two tracks, you have the desktop infrastructure, and they look at two things with the desktop infrastructure, and that's the focus of what we're going to do in here today for the next half hour or so, is get the desktop out, get the operating system up and running, maintain the operating system, and then the applications that go on the operating system. So it's one of two things. Get that operating system out, maintain it, and then what do you do with the applications? And there's quite a few new technologies, but again, computers are computers, Active Directory is Active Directory, and OS is an OS. So if you're familiar and have a lot of experience, it's not going to be any kind of rocket science stuff for you. And then the server infrastructure, these I don't quite, right? Designing and implementing, designing and advanced. Sometimes they get a little bit confusing because they're so ambiguous. But designing, implementing server infrastructure and implementing an advanced server infrastructure. One thing I want to warn you about before you take these exams is the System Center product line is all over that 414 and, excuse me, and it is in these as well. That is not a product that comes out of the box with Windows Server 2012. It's something you have to add in. So it's not quite as simple as it used to be to just concentrate on one product. You have to know some of the more advanced Microsoft products in order to get your knowledge up enough to pass these exams. Okay. And this is, again, what I want to concentrate on. Due to my background, every trainer is a little bit different. Every prep session you come to is a little bit different. But I want to focus on these question types and how you approach them, even the multiple choice that you've known and loved for a long time. And here they are. I'm sorry I didn't do a bigger screenshot, but those are the new question types. And guess what? They're adding more question types. What they're trying to get away from is a multiple choice, hey, you're an engineer, you're not an engineer, to try to get a little more in depth and to, frankly, deal with some of those crying grown men that I've dealt with that are so nervous about taking the exams that might not be good about multiple choice. So you can see active screen, build list, case studies, etc. And we're going to just cover a few of these because not all of these are on the exams that we're here to prep ourselves for. First one, choose the best answer. And I actually have a test question I wrote. I'm not the perfect test question writer, but bear with me on that. This is, a couple answers would work. But you have to be stupid in order to do what it says to do. But you know what? It'll work. Maybe if you're billing by the hour, it's going to work a little bit better for you. But if you're trying to get in and out quickly and perform that task, it's probably not going to work out very well for you. An answer would work, but, and that's the, I almost said big but, that's the kind of stickler there. It'll work, however, it's going to just swamp the network. It'll work, but it's going to take forever. It'll work, but you're going to lose this part or that part. It'll work, but. Least amount of administrative effort. Keep that one in mind. Always think the least time it takes to do a certain task. I think in the IT field, especially these days, there's two things that are important to know that might not have been important to know before. One is you got to know your business flow. You got to know how your business works, especially now with the cloud. The cloud don't configure anybody. The cloud's there to kind of take care of all that stuff. So if you're running around wondering about TCP IP addresses and ignoring the marketing department that needs certain access to a website because they do other things, then you have to really focus on what the business process is. The next thing I want to say is it's about being quick. For IT people, it's about being fast. It's not about being smart. Get in there, fix it, get out, and then you can contemplate what you just did afterwards. That's one of the rookie mistakes I see with IT. There's no rookies in here, but certainly you've dealt with people like this that sit there and try and be scientific and smart and throw acronyms out there and discover why it was and go to regedit the first thing. It ain't about that. It's about being quick. So if you see some of these, what's the quickest answer? How do you get in? How do you get out quick so you can go on the internet and go on Facebook or whatever duties that you have? And also, and these are kind of with the case studies, always look at the requirements, because the requirements will guide you to what the correct answer is, what the proper correct answer is. So don't give up on, so don't lose sight of that you have specific requirements that it has to meet. So when you see one of these exam questions, make sure you look at that requirement, because that is the one thing you have to focus in on that question. Does it meet that requirement or does it not? So there's several right answers, but one of them doesn't fit. Okay. Choose the best answer. And here's an example. Go ahead and take a look at this, and a lot of this stuff would work. One of them, I think, is a correct answer, but there's certain implied information that you need to know. And one of them is probably, I'll give you a hint, D, that's a throwaway. So there's three answers that'll work here, and one answer that works best. Anyone want to take a guess which one you would do coming in here? Yeah, restore point. Probably the best one. But the information you need to know is, when does it take a restore point? When you install a new driver. But what if they install an application as well? They might lose that application. See? And then, And then safe mode, if they had it and they installed the driver and it didn't come up, then they can go to safe mode. There's one in here that I probably should have included, and that is, go to last known good configuration. Oh, God, that's still available. I should have looked that up. So here, it's really between these two, and I don't exactly have the right thing. I originally meant, like Sean, that restored it to latest restore point might be the quickest way. However, you might have to go back and roll back that driver. Again, and the first one, that works, right? Unless you're billing by the hour, that's probably not a good idea. Multiple choice. And I know you've been through multiple choice thousands of times, but just bear with me to try and give you some advice for the multiple choice questions that you see. First, eliminate possibilities first. If you leave these questions blank, they are automatically marked wrong. If there's 4 possibilities, check one. Check one, and hey, you got 25% chance. If another one just seems like it's a distraction, what they call a distraction inside of there, then you eliminate that, 75% chance. Eliminate 2 of them, 50% chance. Take your pick. Second, mark the questions you're unsure of. I have 3 passes that I do when I go through these exams. The first pass is to get all the answers input that I know and I feel comfortable with. Then during that, if I spend more than 1 minute on a question, and I have to actually think about it, I don't know the answer cold or have a good idea about it, I mark it and go on. Get to the end of the test, come back for the little more difficult ones, spend some time on that, and then the third pass is the 5 or 6 questions that I don't have a clue about that I'm going to have to sit there and eliminate and guess between one of them or 2 of them or maybe 3 of them. But my chances are better because I've eliminated some as well. Don't trust your first choice, read all the answers. And I've done this before, to where you look at the first one and think, that's it, oh, perfect. But actually there's something wrong with that, and there's a better one coming up. In other words, take your time. I know you feel when you take these exams that there's time pressure. There's time pressure because there's a ticking clock going on. Take your time. Make sure you look at all the answers because one probably makes more sense than the other ones. You can't just end it there. Think best practice. And also, no question scores more than another question. I'm going to contradict myself here because they throw in beta exams or beta questions in these exams as well. And those beta questions are designed to further questions down the road. You don't know which ones they are. I don't know which ones they are. Most people in Microsoft don't know which ones they are, but they do. However, you have a question like this that you have to build lists. I'm going to go over build lists in a second here. That is just as much as one line with 4 answers. So again, if you see one of those humongous questions, mark it, go on. Get all the ones that are one line, 4 possible answers, and move on. Again, trying to fill in all the things, not leave anything blank. This one, that's probably my biggest advice to people doing this. Fight to the bitter end on a question. Take your time. If you have to take the 2.5 hours it takes to take the exam or however long that timer's clicking, don't give up. Fight for it. Fight for every single question you have. And I can admit this, the last certification test I took, 700. And I remember fighting for 2 of those questions. It left me with a very empty feeling. Like I just dodged a bullet or kissed my sister or my football team tied score or something like that. But hey, 700, perfect score. I passed. That's enough. Nobody's going to come up to me and say, hey, you know, we hired the 850 person instead of the 700 person. So that's my advice on multiple choice. Case study. The case study is what you're going to see is you're going to see 2 or 3 pages of information about a business. What that business does, what that business current infrastructure looks like, what that business wants to go to, and what that business has as requirements. So it's a lot of reading. What I recommend is just breeze through it to get an idea of what this company wants. Because what's going to happen is you get so into that case study that you start thinking you're going to have to know every single detail that you're reading, and then the nerves start coming in. Don't worry about it. You go back to the case study. That's the whole point of it. Secondly, look for key words in the questions, and they usually give them out, right? Requirements, a VPN through this. They want to do this. They're trying to go to a secure sockets VPN type thing. Look for those keywords, and pretty soon, after you've taken a few of these, you get to know those keywords, and they stand out like a sore thumb. Stand out like red ink? I'm not quite sure. Pinpoint part of the case study that applies. This is after you see the question. There's something on there. There's usually just one sentence that applies to the actual question that you have, not the whole thing. So you don't have to read the entire case study for every question you have. It should be pretty clear by the titles on the different paragraphs of where you have to go and what information you have to know in order to answer that question. And usually they're requirements or restrictions or something like that. And then ignore the information that doesn't apply and double check the answer with the case study because sometimes you have to go back and double sure you got it. Another one, hotspot. And you're going to see a few of these on these exams. And that is, you have to kind of know where you have to click in order to do it. And this brings me back to try to get hands-on experience. And I'll try to show you how to get some of that hands-on experience that you have. But looking at this, where would... Sorry. Looking at this, where would you click? few users have accidentally removed applications, that they should not have removed. How do you prevent that? What would you take away in the group policy? Yeah, add remove program, just take it away. It's gone. Maybe this isn't the best example, but this is what you're going to see. So that hands-on experience really pays off. That if you click on this, you know what that does when you click on it. And that's very hard to do if you don't have the kind of hands-on experience with that. This one, I was afraid people were going to just leave, but I wanted to strip all the technical information out of this to talk about this question. This is the question type that throws the most people off. They don't tell you how many tasks you're going to have to perform to do this. They don't tell you the order or the sequence of the tasks that you have to do. So, one of these, and usually how this goes, is one of them makes no sense at all. So you can eliminate that. The other one, and pardon me for talking about peanut butter jelly sandwiches, or peanut butter sandwiches, is, does it really go to the trash can? What if it isn't empty? And it leaves you hanging that one. Do I leave the jar of peanut butter open? Do I leave this task open because there's something else, there's another task that I have to do after this? Don't worry about it. It's just the ones that matter. So this is the question that throws the most people off. And I'll tell you, it counts the same as just a short little question with short little answers that you know already. So mark it, go on, save the time in order to go through this and answer it properly. And what you'll see is you have two things. You can drag and drop it over, or you can hit one of these over. And once it's over to the other side, if you need to change the sequencing of it, you have this. You're going to see several of these type of questions, and they're the toughest ones for people to handle. Just remember the logic behind it, the elimination of the ones that don't make sense, and then if you have 3 left that make sense, get the proper sequencing of it. And one thing that helps is, again, the hands-on experience that you have, that you've gone through it before, that this becomes before that becomes before that. Okay. Now the resources that you have for this. Here at TechEd, hands-on lab, anybody gone down to hands-on labs yet? Great. They have, and I searching through this earlier, there's quite a few different ones that apply, and they're in the clients section downstairs. So for these exams, the 415 and 416, there's a lot of these that apply. So you can go get hands-on experience right now. You can go downstairs and go through those. I'm going to talk about the different objectives, the objective domains that they call. So if you find a weak spot, literally, you should be able to go downstairs, ask one of the technical learning guides down there about what you have to do in order to meet this criteria that you have. And again, get that hands-on experience as much as possible. The study hall is right across there. Unfortunately, they don't have test questions for this, but they do have the test questions for the 410, 411 that I know some of you are interested in taking. They also have e-learning material, online textbooks, and people to kind of help you through it. If it's a little bit loud, we even provide you with a headphone so you can distract from the noise coming out. And it's mostly us green shirts out there talking loud because we're all trainers and we can't help ourselves but to talk loud. So if it gets too loud in there, put some earphones on. We have transcenders. We have measure-ups. They're absolutely free for you to take. So practice taking some of those exams. And transcender and measure-up are smart enough to put in some of these new question types. And then, of course, live session. I mean, that's what TechEd's all about, right? Besides the swag and the expo hall downstairs is a different session. So look at some of the different sessions that you have. And then we have 50% off the certification exams if you take it here. It looks like we just have one person that's interested in taking it here, but you might be able to take it at home. So what do you do at home? Evaluation copy. This is what got me going originally, NT 4.0. I had a choice between going from CNA or MCSE. And that's back in the day when CNE was king. Novell? Anybody? Anybody? Novell? So with the CNE and the MCSE, I had to make a choice. And I chose CNE. But good luck getting the product. Good luck trying it out. I couldn't do it. So I got an evaluation copy of NT 4.0 and changed, and it's probably a good move looking at some of the history of what happened there. Not knocking Novell, fine, but somebody won that game and it wasn't Novell. Let's put it that way. So you can download this. It's 90 days, and I don't think, you got two computers. You can probably switch them, might be able to switch them back and forth. But Microsoft wants you to get your hands on this product, especially if you're IT pros. So there's really no reason why you can't get your hands on this product and take a look at it unless you don't have an office. So if you don't have an office, online they have these Windows Server 2012 virtual labs, which I looked at them, cover some of the material that we are going to discuss in the object, or the what they call the OD, what's on the actual exam. So you can go here and do some of these labs. They're all web-based. All you need is a halfway decent connection. It doesn't even have to be that fast. It all runs on the Microsoft servers. I have no idea where they are, but they run pretty well. So again, hands-on, because if you're like me, I cannot read a book and go do an exam. I'll even go to the product and start doing the product without reading the white paper or whatever, and wait for me to mess up before I actually go and read that thing. I don't know what it is. I love the hands-on. It's what actually teaches me what I have. You also have this option, Azure Trial Account. And then you can spin up, you can spin down, you can spin left, you can spin right, and you can get your hands on a lot of different types of applications and a lot of different operating systems and some of the major things that Microsoft has. So, hands-on, download a trial, go to the virtual labs, open up a trial Azure account, and you're in. You got all that hands-on experience that you have. And again, focus. You don't want to do stuff that you're not necessarily going to be on the exam. You want to do the stuff that is on the exam. Then we have Microsoft Learning. And at Microsoft Learning, there's a lot of e-learning out there that you can watch videos, you can take tests, you can do quite a few things on it. So those are great resources as well. Now, textbooks, this one's out. There's a lot of different textbooks. One thing that I wanted to mention is that one thing, much to the delight of us MCTs, is that Microsoft really has linked the study material with what's actually on the exam. If you guys remember the NT 4.0 and 2003 track especially, that you had to take 2.5 classes to pass one exam, but one class operated with another half of another exam but didn't cover the material. You guys remember that? The circle that's half full. Remember that one? And you look into, so okay, where do I go to find out this material? Let's see, circle half full. Where's the other half of the circle that I have? Oh, that's this book over here, etc. Now they are matched with the actual exams, which made us cheer out loud when us MCTs learn that. But you got a book coming out. You got a lot of different books out there. The official curriculum, something near and dear to my heart, is these classes. These this one is 5-day class, 415, 5-day, 416, 5-day. So you're pretty much set as far as that goes. You're, they cost money. I'll admit that. Maybe there's a better way for you to do it, but if your boss is paying for it, or you're in the oil business, dude, you got all kinds of money, right? They'll send you to a course, right? Huh? That's why we're here. That's exactly right. Okay, so the official curriculum, you get the labs, you get the whole thing, instructor-led, etc. And again, these match directly up to the exam, so you don't have to sit there and fish around, wonder what course you're supposed to take. Okay, now we get into the knowledge domains and the stuff that's actually on the exams. After talking to you this morning, I understand that you're a little more interested in the track part of this. Any questions on the track or any questions on the different MCSE electives, I guess you could say?
Where did the 680 test fit in with the 410
Ooh.
Like the 70-680, 7681.
You stumped me. I'm going to have to come back.
The actual Windows 7 test, not the
Oh.
infrastructure.
Oh, the Windows 7 test. That we're trying to get the MCSE in Windows 7 and then go up from there is what you're trying to do with that one. I don't think it applies to pretty much anything unless you have the MCITP or the MCSE in Windows 7. It's just not going to apply to these ones. Unfortunately, that's why I was saying maybe you want to steer yourself towards the Windows 8 and Server 2012. Okay. I'll try to be as exciting about this as I can. NDA, non-disclosure agreement, 50 to 75 questions, probably see a little bit less than that. 700 is passing. Every test question pretty much counts the same, except for some of these beta questions that you have. You have interactive, and these are pretty much what you have here. The point and shoot, showed you that, correct order, and then the drag and drop where you drop it. You drag it from one side to the other side, then you can wonder about the sequencing that you have with it. Exam 4015, and I wanted to put this up there. This is kind of a catch-all, and I don't want you to be thrown off by this. Objective may include, but is not limited to, means that you should have some kind of prior knowledge coming in here. Okay? They can't say, oh, well, you didn't say a client computer is this or that. There's some kind of assumption that you know a certain base amount of information. So every single objective is going to have this as a preface. This objective may include, but is not limited to. And it's a kind of way of covering them. I don't know if somebody sues somebody if they don't pass an exam. Seems kind of cheap to me, but I'll leave that to the attorneys. This is what's on the exam. The percentages add up to roughly 100 right there. So look at this, and if you're looking for themes here, there's one thing that you're going to have to learn, and that's the deployment methodology that you have for desktops. You were talking about deploying using WDS, and that's going to help you a lot for these different exams. That's going to put you ahead. WDS, you'll be my witness here, is complicated. That is acronym city. There are so many acronyms with the deployment services that it gets a little bit confusing. And how you would go about that and not have the hands-on kind of process down would be difficult. Anything you want to add to that?
Yeah, I would say the first time that I started, so we do it on the server 2008 I haven't started trying to do MDT and that on 2012, but when I first started working with it, and like you said, trying to just get your head around it is a little bit challenging.
Yeah.
But once you start working in it and you kind of know
how the pieces fit together.
And how the theory behind WDS is, then it actually becomes quite simple, I think. I mean,
yeah.
It fits well together once you understand it. It's kind of like SCCM. It fits well together once you understand it.
Yeah. I absolutely agree. And I remember us sitting there pouring over white papers after I stumbled trying to just set it up. And it's a little bit complicated, but for this exam, you have to really know it. And it's probably best that you get the hands-on, because then it drills it home. It's difficult because there must be 40 acronyms with this product. It's the MDT, right? Microsoft Deployment Toolkit. And that includes all the different tools. Have you used this?
We deployed Windows 7 district-wide with the MDT.
Anything you want to share?
No, I have a great team. They do the work.
Oh, that's good. That's good. So you don't have to worry about DISM.
No.
Okay. XMERD. Or Gary, you can do it. Design and deploy desktop. What is it? Do you capture the images? I should know this. I see the acronyms get a little confused. ImageX. Gary, come on. All right, design, deploy desktops, deploy. Plan and implement remote desktop infrastructure. Anybody going to the remote desktop infrastructure, the VDI? Well, Microsoft is pushing this and pushing it quite a bit. I know most people, from my experience, IT pros that I talk to, hardly anybody's doing this, and I might be wrong on that. However, when Microsoft pushes something, then it's going to be somewhat on these exams to try and kind of put the cart behind the horse, if you will, to get people up to speed on it, and then try and roll it out a little bit more. It's where everybody has their desktop on servers somewhere. Everybody has a virtual desktop. That is a little bit foreign if you're coming from another certification path. We really didn't have that before, but now it's all over the place on this exam. Plan and implement a remote desktop services infrastructure, design and configure desktop settings, and then finally, Manage and maintain a desktop infrastructure. Now, I'm going to warn you, the next few slides are very wordy, but what I want to do is just kind of piece through them, and I don't want to sit here and say, hey, know this, hey, know this, hey, know this, hey, know this. What I want to do is kind of take it apart and then talk about how you would go through those different parts to find out where your gaps are and the information you need to know. Do you want to get hands-on experience? Do you want to read a book? Do you want to do whatever it is you want to do? And here it is. If you take a look at this, let me just summarize that. You certainly don't have to read this. Get the MDT, work with the MDT, research the MDT, and become best friends at the MDT. This is all about deployment. This is all about deploying images. If you've heard of thin images and thick images and touching, right? Zero touch and heavy touch and light touch. I'm not kidding. All those different things of how you do it. And I can say this, I went up and helped, actually helped the Air Force. I'm not tooting my own horn here, but helped the Air Force with their deployment strategy up in North Dakota. And we went from about 4 hours of deploying a laptop, which took a lot of people a lot of time, to about 20 minutes with a little bit of thing. And I can also say this from my experience, maybe your experience is different. The light touch is, okay, if you have a laptop and you strip it down, and then on that laptop you install an image, how much do you have to touch that thing in order to get that image in there? The ultimate goal is zero touch. Put it in, plug in the network card, turn it on, go get a cup of coffee. By the time you come cup of coffee, it's ready. But I've never experienced that. There's always something. There is always something that you need to do that computer. From my experience, and maybe you guys have been able to do this. Then there's light touch, which you have to maybe do this, this profile, add this, add it to the domain, etc. And then there's zero touch. But again, the MDT includes a lot of these different things that you see here, the WDS, etc. And then finally, maintaining images. So these images, you have this, and this is not new, but it's one of those things that I never heard of that. Oh, that's been around since 2008? Yes, it has. The virtual machine servicing tool. So if you have a lot of virtual machines on a server somewhere, and people are logging into these, you have to have some kind of mechanism in order to take care of those different images. So when you look at this, let me see my laser pointer. There it is. Look at that. Sorry. It seems so informal here. Virtual machine servicing tool, that's probably something new. If all this looks new to you, then it's probably a good idea before you sit this exam to really study up on the Microsoft Deployment Toolkit and all the acronyms that are included with it. But as our kind friend was saying here, once you get it down, you save all kinds of time deploying different desktops, and they're precise and they're very good. It ain't ghosting, right? It's way different than ghosting. Ghosting, you have a big, fat, blank, stupid image, and it goes on a disk, and the computer has to be the same. This one kind of reinvents itself. You can what's called inject drivers inside of there. You can have it go to the driver thing. You can have it run group policy. You can have a big, thick image, which I usually prefer, or a thin image that gets all the information that it needs. Anybody want to add anything about WDS or MDT?
It's hardware agnostic in the sense that, like you said, you don't, like in Ghost, you kind of have to specifically say, this is an image that goes with this piece of hardware. Here, you just inject drivers. You take a Windows 7 or Windows 8 OS as a base.
Mm-hmm.
Then you add anything you want to that Windows 7 or Windows 8 base, capture that through your WDS, and then you deploy that, and then the MDT will actually inject all the drivers, and then create, basically take the image and push the operating system on the computer.
Yeah, that's correct. And it doesn't matter. Yeah.
Because it comes with Windows Server.
Yeah, and it's this one's a free one, the VMM and all that other kind of stuff. But yeah, it makes deployment very, very easy.
We deployed about, in like 6 computers we deployed in an hour.
Yeah.
But, we have to watch because of the network, especially the college. But now with faculty staff, it's taking longer, but we added for the ability to do the backup. So it will do the backup of any files that they have. It will go through the different folders and
Yeah.
and all that. So it's very good.
It's very nice. And again, the hardware agnostic. Any imagers with Ghost in here? You guys remember that? You have to, and if you add one little check or something, okay, deploy it. All right, add the check. Okay, capture it. Okay, put it back up on the server. This one is not like that at all. It's very, very elastic and agnostic. And the reason it's agnostic like that is Windows 7, starting with Windows 7, well, Windows Vista, but we pretend that didn't happen, right? But with Windows 7, it pretty much reinvents itself every time it starts up, which might seem like it's a bit much for that, but that's why you can take a hard drive and move it around and talk about Windows to go here. Configure desktop settings. State virtualization. And again, what we're looking at here is for desktops to be virtualized, and it's going to be a big push. If the one thing I can tell you besides the WDS and MDT that you need to know about this, it is about this virtual desktop infrastructure, or remote desktop infrastructure, what they call it now. You got to pretty much know that. And of course, here we go. And here we go. User account control. Guys remember that? Vista? People get mad at you. Remember? All right. Sample question. Enterprise support technician. Oh, I think I missed something. I did not. Here we go. Enterprise, and here we go. I'm just trying to show this one because of Remote FX. You guys probably haven't heard of Remote FX. Anybody do this? All right. So you have a bunch of virtual machines, virtual desktop. People are going into those desktops. It ain't like a server where nobody really cares what happens over there, but they care about their desktop, and they get mad at you if it doesn't work. Well, what if they have a lot of kind of graphical, intense things? That server is going to be loaded with that. So this is just a way of doing that. And I put this question in here because I'm going to talk about the dependencies. Remote FX client to all machines. Well, you see up there in the logic that only some of the machines are messing up with this. So that eliminates that one. Again, this process of elimination. Enable the remote desktop encoder on all the clients and the decoder on the virtual host machines. But if you study this a little bit, that's kind of mixed up there. The server does one thing and the client does the other. So you can almost look at this, know nothing about FX, use your logic, and come to answer B, update all the client machines to remote desktop 7.1. And this would be one of those giveaways that I was trying to talk about, is fight to the bitter end. You don't have to know anything about remote FX, probably, to answer this question, because some of it's eliminated by logic. Why would it encode here and decode there, and wouldn't those kind of be the same thing? So B probably makes the most sense. At least I hope it makes sense to you. All right. And deploy desktops. Pattern here, maybe? Right? Deployment, deployment, deployment. Getting those desktops out there. Getting those operating systems up and going. And if you haven't, take a look at this MDT. And I did this on purpose just to show you kind of come out with this. And then you can see right here that if you just Bing it, I actually had Google slide and I thought, oh, no, Gary, no. So you can see here, look at that. Look at this, look. You got the toolkit, you got a video, you got a blog, you got training, you got a tutorial, and you got some kind of solution accelerator out there. So no lack of knowledge about MDT. However, try to use it as much as possible and implement it, because it's a little bit confusing of what you're supposed to do if you don't. Deploy desktops, continuing. Here you go. Zero touch, user state migration. And you guys have probably done this user state migration and anybody use this tool here, the user state migration tool. And again, what you're trying to do is people are fond of their favorites. They're fond of this and that that's on their desktop. They like their wallpaper. They're not like you and me that get a new computer and think, oh, cool, I get to configure it. People and users aren't exactly like that. So that user state that they have has to be migrated to the new one. So that one is kind of an old technology that is added to this with a few changes. And here we go. remote desktop infrastructure. And this is all kind of the new stuff. I realize you can't read this. It's probably not important. You can certainly look this up if you wanted to. But the remote desktop services infrastructure, again, is something that's going to be a little bit different. Something that most people haven't had any kind of experience with, that is totally different than Windows 7 and some of the previous operating systems that we have. Microsoft has a lot of this built in. It's cloudy, I guess you could say, if that's a term. It is in the cloud. It is on servers. It isn't exactly on their desktop. So this is one of those areas that it's going to be brand new to most people, that you have to kind of start from the get-go. And as far as I know, they do have labs on this downstairs. All right, a desktop infrastructure, update infrastructure, WSUS. But here you go. Here you go. See? With System Center 2012, Virtual Machine Manager 2012, Configuration Manager and Template and all this other kind of stuff. That's my kind of warning to you, is that you're not going to just be able to know server and how it deploys desktops. You don't just need to know desktops. You have to know these applications or these Configuration Manager, the System Center stuff, right? You have to know that, but that's not included with Server 2012. So what do? Download a free trial, go to the virtualization things, read a book about it. Because it's not, all right, how many people have System Center? And, okay, well, I guess it is more prevalent. About half of you. What do you have? Oh, the 2007? Okay. The System Center Operation Manager? Okay. Okay. Most people Configuration Manager. Okay. So just be warned that you're going to see that on the exam, and you probably don't see that somewhere else. And then we have the sample question. This sample question, again, is something that you can probably really not know what the information is, what the actual technology, and just kind of use logic in order to do it. Now we have people, right, bring your own device. If you want to look at the growth, I don't have my phone here. You want to look at the growth in the industry, stop looking at the desktop, stop looking at the laptop. It's devices. It's tablets and iPhones and iPads and all that. And it all happens the same. And I'm sure some of you experience this. You're just fine and dandy. Then the CIO or CEO or some bigwig in your company says, can I get my email from my iPad? And then all of a sudden, you let him get his email. And then somebody else wants to get it. And somebody else and somebody else and somebody else. Well, they're taking those devices and going to the internet red light district. They're going here, they're going there. So how do you protect them? And also, if they have a 4G or 3G and they're doing work, what kind of updates are you going to push out on that? What kind of maintenance are you going to do on it with a metered connection? So now we have this new metered connection that we have. And cost-aware synchronization. The cost-aware synchronization is kind of what you want. And here's where it is, right? Enterprise support technician for wingtip toes deployed the new image. Many people have 3G, 4G. You already enabled cost-aware synchronization. Eliminate that one. However, a user, so eliminate that one. A user with the new connection is complaining, imagine that, end user is complaining, that their wireless bill, and how do you assure the connection is treated as a metered connection? And this one, I know it seems obvious. It seems so obvious that you probably wouldn't put that question on there, but that's the answer to the question. So you don't even necessarily have to know the technology in order to do it. Again, fight to the bitter end about those. Okay, we're almost done. This one is going to be a lot quicker. I don't want to go over what you just saw there, but now we're going to talk about applications and installing different applications and controlling those applications. I sometimes am quite surprised how many people don't use group policy to roll out applications because it isn't about saving 10,000 hours of getting an application out. It's about maintaining that application, updating that application, removing that application. It's about the maintenance of the application. It's about being fast, not being smart these days. So if you're not using group policy packaging, probably there's a better way to do it. And again, it isn't about saving the time for the rollout. It's about, after the rollout is there, of maintaining the different applications that you have. Enough said. So here, design and prepare the environment, virtualization environment, application virtualization, application environment, continuity with the desktop environment. So these are a lot easier here. Application distribution strategy, and this is, again, what I was talking about with the group policy and the packaging and things like that. And there's some new technology that we have with Server 2012 in order to do this. The application compatibility. This was a problem before, but I don't know if it's so much of a problem now. XP to Windows 7, that was kind of, let's just say, difficult for some of the things. But the big stickler there was IE7 and IE6. Of these archaic applications people had on the web server that everybody in the entire business uses, that the web developer got mad and quit a long time ago, and nobody else knows how to develop it or anything like that, and they can't update it. That was the biggest one, actually, for Windows 7. But now, application compatibility, not as big of an issue as it used to be. But web-based applications, and that happens to be where everything's going, is still kind of a problem that you have there because internet has changed. Mostly cascaded style sheets, replacing the tables and the positioning of different things on the web. And update applications in desktop images. And again, bless you, the desktop images, the nice thing about WDS, you got a new application in there, needs update. You can either roll it out, do it online, you can do it, deploy it, and then do it a little bit later. You have a lot more options than you had before. Design and implement a presentation virtualization environment. And this is where a lot of this stuff is going. If you guys remember a company called SoftGrid, we actually implemented that, and oh, believe me, it's a lot easier to do now. And that is, you have some people do a remote desktop into a server. They run one application the entire time they're in that, and then they remove that remote desktop. Hopefully, they disconnect the connection or end the session in order to do it. But now what we can do is quite literally put an icon on their desktop, they click on the icon, and then the application launches, but ha-ha-he-he, it's actually run on the server, and they have no clue it's run on the server. So that's a big part of this exam, 416, in order to do that. And of course, deploy and manage remote applications. Some of the different applications, if you're talking about a VDI, a virtual desktop infrastructure, some of those applications are going to be a little bit more of a bear to roll out than a simple desktop and putting it on the desktop. And then here's the fun part. Oh, we're not quite to the that's the next class. The side loading, the Windows apps. Anybody? You guys implementing those yet? Okay. Prepare the virtual applications, and again, the information on there. And the application environment. Application to the desktop. So really what we're looking at here is a very worthwhile pursuit that you can go through to get control of the applications that you have on the desktops. And continuity, we'll go through these rather quickly. You can see where they are. And so the session objectives, again, of taking the exam and what the exam questions look like now. And I'll say it again, do the 3-pass method if you can. You can take it any way you want, but I think this is a good way to do it. Mark the ones that are scary. Do the ones that you know the answer to, and then come back through and check the marked answers. With this exam, some of you I know haven't taken a Microsoft exam yet. With this exam, you can mark the answers, get to the end, and then say preview marked answers. So then you can go through all the ones that are marked, answer the ones that you can in a reasonable amount of time, uncheck the mark, and then make a pass for the real hairy questions that count just the same as one that you had before. So we covered some of the objectives for 415, 416, the question types, and how to fill up the knowledge gaps with the different things you had. Remember the online opportunities that you have for it. You don't have to have a lab at work. You don't have to have a big office. All you have to do is have a computer with an internet connection. You can do a lot of those labs, and there's labs available now. So I'd like to close by just saying good luck on your certification pursuit. Hopefully you found some of this interesting and worthwhile. I'm very glad that I got to talk to you a lot beforehand so we could cover that that material about the actual exam. Yeah.
Going back into some of the updating and
Mm-hmm.
what they're looking for in exams. I mean, so you mentioned SCCM and doing updating through WSUS that way, but I mean, are they going to concentrate on WSUS from the server side, like as a role, instead of not just doing it through System Center?
How do I answer that?
It's like if people don't have System Center and they just use WSUS as a role on their server and they deploy updates that way.
I know.
A method of doing it as well.
See how it interacts with SCCM,
Okay.
and probably focus a bit more on that.
On the SCCM.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
And there's new stuff to WSUS, the collections and different things like that. So I'd recommend focus on integration in SCCM and the new things in WSUS. Okay. All right, guys. Thank you very much. Really enjoyed it. Okay. You're welcome.